Hi, and welcome again. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining today. I believe knowing Excel is as fundamental as read and write today. And one of the fundamental and most important features of Excel is Excel macros. Today, I'm going to go through Excel macros and make it easy for you to understand and use them in your everyday life. I've met and come across a lot of people who believe that macros are quite complex, and it's very hard for a normal person to use them in their Excels, which is not true. Macros are very easy, and definitely at the end of this session, you will agree with me that macros are easy. So let me quickly introduce myself first. My name is Soleiman Qureshi, and I will take you through the agenda first. And today's agenda is brief introduction of macros, their utility, and how easy these are for ourselves to use in the Excel and take a utility. Recording a macro, we'll record a macro and we'll see how easy it is to record a macro and convert a huge task into small click. I believe you can save hours with recording a macro and using it in your Excels. How to manage macros on your PC. If you have multiple macros you are using, how to manage them. Then we go through looking at the code that you've recorded so that you should know what exactly is the backstage story, what exactly is going on when you run a macro or when you click in Excel. And then I will brief you through the VBA, Visual Basic for Application Language. Just because you should know it, you should know what you're working on. Definitely, I'm not going to go in the deep coding details and complex functionalities of Visual Basic Language, but definitely I will at least introduce you to the language so that you should know. And you should get ready for my next session, which will be in detail of writing macros in VBA. So, what are macros? Basically, Excel itself is a tool which helps user to work with worksheets and workbooks with ease. This tool is one of the ultimate time savers, but there are numerous events when you have to do repetitive tasks which are of a very little value but consume a lot of your precious time, yet engage you in a less productive activity, which Excel may do automatically. So Microsoft Excel macro is the feature which eliminates or at least minimizes these events which take your precious time in repetitive tasks, and you will be able to capitalize this time in more productive and strategic activities. Apart from automating repetitive tasks, Microsoft Excel macros may also be used to create user interfaces. By user interfaces, I mean the screens where users can give or take inputs. So this is how Microsoft Excel macros are. So let me give you a layman, very easy example to understand what macros are doing in Excel. IKEA, I'm sure you're surprised why IKEA logo is here and what IKEA has to do with Microsoft Excel. Possibly there is no such a link established already. Yes, you're right, but I'll give you an example which will make you understand how this macro works. So when you go to IKEA, you go and end up buying some boxes, a lot of them. And in the boxes, you have some tools like small screwdrivers and fixers. Along with that, you have a lot of pieces of furniture which you are supposed to assemble. So since IKEA is providing the support for assembling the furniture as well, you can easily avail that. But when you open the boxes, what you see for the first? Yes, you see some boxes, some equipment, some unassembled furniture, and of course, the very important thing is a set of instructions. These five are the instructions to make one chair for you. And unless you go through these instructions, you will not be able to see the end product. Yes. So you will have to go through these instructions one by one, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then you will be able to do that. So it is not that easy for you. I'm sure a lot of you have already tried it at home. What happens is, since we are not trained enough, and of course we don't have the required tools as well, we end up probably sometimes in messing up with the furniture and, of course, wasting a lot of time. Rather than the other solution, that is calling the IKEA person who has this set of instructions in his mind, he's more efficient and expert because he has experience of repeatedly doing it, which makes chances of error very, very less. There you go. Job made easy. You pay IKEA and they assemble it for you. The task that you were supposed to do in probably few hours, maybe they can do it very, very, very less time. So let's correlate the same example with Excel macros. So when you have a set of instructions, you do every day a lot of tasks in Excel, which are repetitive, which you have to do probably many times in a month. If those tasks are repetitive and you are repeating them every time, there are chances you might go on with some errors as well. That is all how you do manual assembly of your furniture. So macro is, let's say, for example, IKEA's person who is trained, who spends less time, and who can do it all these tasks only in one click for you. Definitely, in case of macros, you have very less chances of errors. So this is how I would like to correlate this with IKEA and your everyday life. So let's go to the basic definition of Excel macros. So a macro is a series of commands and functions that are stored in Microsoft Visual Basic module and can be run every time whenever you need to perform a task. So what are basically the benefits of macro? But before going to the benefits of the macro, I would like to tell you that by default, Microsoft Excel do not provide you this facility of using macros. So for that, you will have to enable them first. So quickly, I will tell you how to enable your Excel to use macros. In Excel, when you open a spreadsheet, you find some bars on the ribbon and some options and some tabs. But these tabs are not helpful because you don't have your macros there. So you go to customize ribbon and there you go. You see there is a developer which is unselected. So you have to select this developer tab because unless you have developer tab, you cannot go to macros. There you go. When you click on the developer now, in the tab you can see on the extreme left corner, you have macros, Visual Basic, and all the recording options that are required to record a macro or write a syntax of a macro. So that's the first step I believe each one of you have to do first to enable your macros before you go into the details of these macros. So first thing that you need to know is that macros are very simple, powerful, and easy to customize, and they can save you a lot of time. Trust me, they can. If you really know how to use them, you can really save your time. And time is money, time is precious, and time is something you cannot get back. If you perform a task repeatedly, then that's the best way to do it. Automate it. How long does it take you every day to finish your routine tasks? There are big contributions of Excel spreadsheets that you are working every day. You can reduce that time. So why not let Excel macros help you in that? Let me show you how. I will show you an example of macros helping me every day in my life. So for example, I have this spreadsheet, just a sample spreadsheet. I have a very fictitious data over here. So this data is not formatted. And whenever I download this spreadsheet from some tools or internet, I have to format it each time. And this is a task that I have to do every time. Every time I have to format it, every time I have to make it a beautiful sheet. But, but this is repetitive and this is consuming a lot of my time. You see, this is taking a lot of my time to go through each and every column, row, cell to make it as I want, to make it as my management wants to see, to make it like at least as I want to use it properly. So rather than going onto each and every detail of this sheet after downloading, I will not do that. I will not do that. I will rather record a macro once, which will take me maximum maybe 10, 15 minutes or maybe half an hour. but that will be the first and last half an hour, and then I will do it on the basis of a click. So I have a macro here. I will simply press click. This training macro will convert this text into the desired format that I need. So this is a sample for you guys. I will simply press this button and you see tuck, 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 and there you go. Everything done. Colors, columns aligned, everything is as I want. Isn't it fast? There is a certain specific set of tasks that I've been doing and recording in this macro, and now it is very easy for me to do this job in one click, which usually was taking me hours, honestly. So this is how you can save your time. This is how you can contribute to your organization. This is how you contribute to yourself by investing that time in some very productive activities that are really useful for yourself, for your personal development, of course, for the development of your organization. So what I'll do is I will go straight away to recording a macro because I know you're impatient to record a macro now yourself. Yes, definitely we will do that. And trust me, after doing this, you should be able to do it yourself. So let's do it. Excel macro recording. So first of all, we go back again and there we go. We see that again, we don't have our tab, but I'll first open a workbook that I have some sample data for you guys. I pulled it down to explain you how this macros will work. So before going into the detail of this data and how it will work, I'll see that there is no developer tab. So I'll simply do the again check just to repeat, go to the customize the ribbon as we did before. I'm sure you guys remember it, and then go where? Yes, you're right, developer. So click on the developer and your developer will be in the ribbon and you can see these code, XML, and all these options. Okay, and there's my developer tab. And you can see the record macro. I'll not wait. I will press the record button. I will write it over here. This is my first test macro. So I'll name it as test. I will put a Q over here just as a shortcut key. And of course, I will write a little bit of description of the macro that it is a test macro for training session. So that is how I will name it. The shortcut key is already assigned, so Control Q will trigger this macro. So macro recording is started. You can see stop macro is available, so you can stop it anytime you want. What I'll do is I will quickly randomly do some tasks like painting the rows and columns and coloring some text, for example. I know maybe you don't like this color, but just for an example, it will help you to understand. Then I will change, for example, let's make it bold. Um, let's change some other columns, some other data as well, just to do all these tasks. And remember, whatever I'm doing is being recorded on the top. You can see under the home, stop recording, which means it's being recording at the moment. So I'll give another bad color to C, D, E, and E, and bold G as well. So now you should be able to see a lot of changes here. At this moment, I think this is enough for us. I'll just stop. This was a test. We stopped. Remember, we stopped and I will turn back all the formatting changes that I did. Now, for example, I want to do those formatting changes again on the same data. So I will simply go back to macros rather. And you see in personal.xlsb, I can find this macro. I will simply run it now and you will see in one click I got this macro here placed. So all those tasks which took us probably a few seconds were done with only one click, means within some microseconds. So that is how it is done. It is fast, it's quick. Now I'll try it with Control Q. You remember we had the shortcut key, so I'll press Control Q and there you go. It is again formatted. So you see it is very simple. It's very easy and very useful. We'll go again into another example, but before that, I would like to show to my friends who have Office 2007 how they can enable, because what I did was that was in Office 2013. So in Office 2007, you have this home button or office button. You press this and then it takes you to the Excel options. When you reach Excel options, you press this and it takes you to Excel options popular. where you will click this Show Developer tab ribbon. And there you are. That's it, what you need. Then you will quickly go back and you will see this Developer tab here. And of course, on the side of it, you can find macros, record macros, etc. So when you click on the Developer tab and you start recording the record macro, you can find your macro name over here. You can put a key over here. Just remember one more thing. It's very important that if you try to put a key like Control plus C, which is already a shortcut key for one of the basic fundamental Excel commands, copy, so you cannot use it like that. So Excel automatically will assign another shift or control in between you and your uh, shortcut key. So here we have Control Shift and N. In this case, we've got an additional shift in between. So that was a quick tip for the shortcut keys. Similarly, you can go back and you will see again this stop recording button. So you can go there and you can stop recording your macro. So once you're done with the recording macro, you will go back to developer tab, run the macro, and it will show you the macros on your sheet. This is a pop-up that appears for macros, whichever are available and which one do you want to run. Now, whenever you start Excel, this personal.xls comes up in the play. It opens automatically and runs in the background when the macro security level in Excel is set to high. So Excel will run only those macros that are digitally signed or stored in a trusted location, such as Excel startups. So that was a quick tip. This is a quick highlight of the code on the back of the macros that we are writing. This is VBA code, but let's not go into the detail of this code. So you will quickly press run button and your Excel macro will start running. And you can also edit it. When you press the edit button, it will take you to the code. There is a shortcut key for that as well. That is Alt F11. Now, let me take you to a little more detail of Excel macros. So there are two types of Excel macros. One are absolute reference and other ones are relative reference macros. Hey guys, don't get confused with this type of definitions. I will make it very easy with an example for you to understand it. So let me explain what absolute reference macros are. Absolute reference macros are the macros which you run on a certain cell, for example, B2 and B3, and when you are done with recording that macro, you cannot move this kind of macro on some other place, for example, E2 and 3 or Z2 and 3 or VB2 and 3. You cannot go there. You have to stick to B2 and 3 where you recorded this macro. And if we talk about the relative reference macros, when you write those macros or record those macros are portable, I'll say. Portable means you can take them to any sheet, you can take them to any cell rather. The better definition would be. So if you recorded it on B2 and B3, if you move it to C2 and C3, it will be easily executable and it will give the same result as it did for B2 and B3. But apart from the definitions, let me practically explain it to you how it goes on. So let's go back on our sheet, the same worksheet. Remember, this is the use relative reference. Though this is always by default disabled, so I'll keep it disabled. So we'll write an absolute reference macro. This is a macro name. I'll not give a shortcut key. What I will do is I will color B3 and B4 as I was explaining to you guys. So I will change color and format of B2 and B3. Now I've stopped recording and again I will turn it back to the normal format. Now I'll go back and run the macro that I wrote, that is absolute reference, and you see it is running on B3 and B4. B3 and B4, you remember B3 and B4. So I will change back the format. Now what I'll do is I will go down and click on A19. So I wanted to run on A19. I will go and run it again, but no, it didn't. It went back on B3 and B5. Why? Because I've been running it, recording it on this. So let me explain it through the code that you see B4 and B3. So this is how it is. In the code, it is absolutely mentioned that these are the two cells which will be affected or impacted by the macro. So no other cell can be impacted. So this is what we call absolute reference macros. I'll change the color back. So this is how it works. Now, let me quickly give you an example of relative reference macro. So quickly, I'll go again to use the relative reference. Now you see the use relative reference is highlighted, which means it will be working. So it's a relative reference macro now. What I'll write is macro name, that is relative underscore reference, and I will press OK. I will go again on B3 and B4 and give them uh, some some changes in the format, for example, the color change, and control B by making it bold. So the color is blue this time and it is changed. I will stop recording it. So this is an absolute, sorry, it's a relative reference macro, which means it can be applied anywhere on the sheet. Let's see if really we can do that. When I run the macro on B3, it makes it changed. Correct. I understand it. It should, because it is a job of a macro. But what if I try it on some other cell? That is the test now, really, for this relative reference macro. Let's run it and see how it goes. Woo! It did. It came down. So yes, now we can use this macro on any cell we want, anywhere on the row, you see, and it can be anywhere in the spreadsheet. For example, let's move to E. There you go. There and there. It's working, isn't it? So this is called relative reference macro, which can be absolutely run on the sheet. So this is the point where you can see your macro is being recorded as absolute or a relative macro. So I'm sure by now each one of you is clear about the definition and of course the functionality of absolute and relative reference macros. So I will not move just like this. I will give you a quick tip, which is very important for the users. So whenever you open a book or a worksheet, please do not enable macros if that data is from any untrustful source. So if it is from internet, please think twice before going for a macro, because macros can seriously damage your resources on your computer, your networks, and many more, which probably you have no idea of. So this is a quick tip from my side that macros are very useful, but if they are used negatively, people can use it very negatively as well. So be careful about it as well. So let me now quickly introduce you to the Visual Basic Applications language. This is, I will say, Visual Basic is a language which is inherited from a very popular language, how you call it, GW Basic back in 90s. It's a basic language. Basic stands for Beginner's All-Purpose Symbolic Instruction Code. Visual Basic is called visual because you can do most of the program by clicking and going. So visually, you can do everything. It's an event-driven and object based language. So when I say it's an event-driven language, uh, it means that you can write triggers which will initiate on specific events. For example, when user opens a document, a file, or saves a file. So these are the events which are triggered. Then when I say it's an object-based language, this means that we can use the objects and their properties. For example, the worksheet is an object and its properties are the sheet names, uh, when someone clicks them on the button. So this is how we call it object-based language. So let's not confuse ourselves with more details. So Visual Basic for applications means that Visual Basic uh, VBA, as it uses Visual Basic language, and it's capable of using application-specific objects. If we talk about VBA for Excel, it can use cell objects, range objects, worksheet, and workbook objects. So these are the objects which Visual Basic can use in Excel uh, through through its own programming. So we will quickly see how you can see it. So in Office 2007, you can go to Tools, Macros, Visual Basic Editors, and it will take you into this kind of window, which is quite complicated at the moment in front of you. So let's not go into the detail of this kind of macro background, but this is rather like this when you will open it. So it will be pretty much empty. The components of the sheet will be quite empty. So let me write down a program. You don't necessarily have to write it down, but if you will write it down, that will be good for you to know how it goes on. So to get a little bit more detailed understanding of how this macro of Excel works, let me take you into the detail of the macro. So uh, let's do it. Let's write it down. But before that, I would like to tell you that a small point that is very important to understand the hierarchy of Excel objects. So hierarchy of Excel object works like applications. Application mean it can be Excel, it can be PowerPoint, it can be Microsoft Word. So in this case, it will be Excel. Then we have a workbook. You all of you know what a workbook is. Then we have this worksheet. And of course, after that, we have a range or a cell and then font. So it goes down like this. So you mention or invoke this application first, then workbook, then worksheet, then range, then font, and etc. etc. So this is the hierarchy of the application. So that is how it will be used. Uh, let's write a hello Nokia in programmings. So again, we'll go back to our developer tab, Suite developer tab, and go to Visual Basic. It is Alt F11, the shortcut key. You simply click it and you can go not in the macros or recording of the macro, but the basic code of Visual Basic. So there we are, the sheet. Don't get confused with the objects on your left side, but rather focus in the middle where I'll be writing the code. So that is the area which we need to focus on. Let's not defocus ourselves. So I'll click on Insert and Module, and there we have the modules and the worksheet on the left side. So let's start writing rather, going into the detail of the modules. So sub is invocation. So we have to start a subroutine, Nokia, and I close the bracket, and end sub is automatically provided by the Visual Basic language that I have to close this program somehow. Nokia is my macro name. I will invoke message box in Nokia, and I will write a message in the message box that will be a sweet message as we discussed, hello Nokia. So we will call Nokia by saying hello through our program. So there will be a message box appearing, as I mentioned in the start, that we can use it to interface with the users as well visually. Let me show you how you will do it. So let's go back to the program, run the macro. I told you Nokia will be the name of our macro. There we go. Hello Nokia. Simple, isn't it? Very simple. To write a program, you can be a programmer. You can write a program. It's very simple. Let me tell you again how it was. Nokia. Nokia is the name of the macro. Sub Nokia. Macro name. Message box. Write a message box and in the brackets write any text. Write Assalamu alaikum. Write ciao. Write hello. Write Masalam. Write anything and you will see it on your screen. Why not give it a try today? It's very simple and easy. Give it a try and you will understand what is going on in the background of your Excel macros. So the next point I would like to tell you is about how to save different macros on your own PC. So how you can save a macro which is from another resource. For example, some of your colleagues have sent you, or some of the other departments from other offices have sent you. So this is one example that I have. I've got, for example, this macro from one of my friends in Singapore. And now I will be using this macro on my reports as well. So it has a good help for me. So I have to keep it on my PC. That's the basic rule of the macro. Save it on your PC. So go save as and save this file somewhere in my documents where you don't delete it. So of course you won't directly uh, interface with this file many times or quite frequently, but you will have to keep it safe. So for that purpose, now we'll go to the quick access toolbar. This is the quick access toolbar. I will simply click on it, more commands, and there you go. We have more commands menu in the quick access toolbar. I will simply click and go to the macros. So there it is. The test macro that was in the file is saved here. I'll move it and add it to the list. Now I'll modify it and I will make it a logo that I can understand which macro I've added new. So let's take the MSN macro and I will change the display. There you go. It is appearing. And if you see, there is a pop-up test. So it is the test macro. So whenever I'll need this macro, I will simply press the button and run the macro and enjoy the useful benefits of this particular uh, macro in my daily work. So that is how you can utilize different macros from different sources in your PC, in your work every day by using them easily. So that was it from my side on macros and a little bit of insight of the VBA language just to make you a backstage view. So you can see now what is happening on the big stage when you go on. So I will give, don't let you go like this. I will give you some quick tips about Excel. And those tips are about Excel extensions. So XLS, you see, is normally we use in Excel 2007, 2013, 16. XLM is macro enabled, which is fully supporting XLS macros. XLB is one of the very important types, I will say, because XLB is the type which helps you to compress rather your data. So if you have a 25 or 30 MB XLSX, this particular type will, if you save it in XLSB, will shrink it to only 5 MB maybe. So that will be a good example for you to shrink your data. XLSTM is also a template for the macros. And of course, XLAM is add-in macro, which is full functionality of inheriting macro support because of the file purposes. So that was it from my side, guys, today. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you very much for being with me. Definitely, I'll keep posting on VBA in detail in my next uploads. So just stay in touch. Thank you very much and have a good rest of the day. Bye bye.